In recent years, professional sports have faced a growing controversy: tanking. From the NBA to the NFL, teams have been accused of deliberately losing to secure better draft positions. This slideshow will go in depth into the causes, the people involved, and the ethical dilemma of tanking, and brings up the question of, is it a smart long-term strategy or a betrayal of the game's integrity? What is tanking? Tanking is the practice of teams intentionally playing bad in order to get advantages such as higher draft picks, helping them in the long term. The most famous example of this was the Philadelphia 76ers, where they called it the process. The process was an error of the team in the mid-2010s where they put over future talent over immediate wins and had multiple losing seasons in order to try and get the number one overall draft pick that year. In the NFL, Coach Brian Flores told reporters that the Dolphins offered him bonuses to lose games and secured the top draft pick in the 2019-2020 season after he was let go due to a bad record. And most recently, the San Antonio Spurs were called out by the league for resting players before the 2023 draft and eventually landed the French phenom Victor Wembanyama. So who are the stakeholders affected by tanking? For players, tanking can damage blossoming young careers and overall team morale. They may be asked to underperform or could be benched unfairly, and this hurts young developing athletes and wastes a lot of stars of their full potential. A big stakeholder affected are the fans, as they spend their hard-earned money and valuable time supporting teams that may not be putting in 100% effort. The emotional and financial cost of watching a team lose on purpose takes away from the very purpose of sport and competition, just for future success that's not even guaranteed. And owners and front offices are often seen as thinking tanking is strategic investment, short-term pain for a long-term game, as they say. But leagues like the NBA have been increasingly aware of the harm to competitive integrity due to tanking. The NBA has a draft lottery to try and prevent tanking, but it still isn't the most effective method. So, what is the moral issue here? Tanking puts strategic against moral duty. From an ethical standpoint, this is a real dilemma. So the question is, should teams prioritize winning later over trying now? And do the fans deserve honesty and effort in every game, or just results in championships in the long run? These tensions highlight the theories from ethic and morality in the sports management world, most specifically Alternarianism versus deontology. Now, the big quote is it's ethics versus strategy. What is more important to these teams? So the first ethical framework is Alternarianism. Alternarianism argues for the greater good for the greatest number. If tanking today leads to a championship tomorrow, maybe the strategy is justifiable. But the long-term damage of fan trust, culture of losing, and fairness may outweigh future success. Do the ends truly justify the means in this case? And the other ethical framework that we can look at is deontology. Deontology, on the other hand, focuses on duty and moral obligation. Teams have a responsibility to compete with integrity no matter the outcome. According to this view, tanking is unethical, not because of its result, but because it breaks the commitment to fair competition and respect for the sport. The big quote behind deontology is, do what is right, not what works. So the consequences in the league actions are, tanking affects all the stakeholders in some way, whether little or a lot. Players' careers can be wasted and ruined. Fans can lose trust, loyalty, and money. And ownership and coaching is affected as viewership drops, which makes the teams less profitable. Leagues like the NBA have already responded with policies like lottery reform and fines, but the lackluster enforcement and the gray area standards leave some room for still playing around with the system. Without accountability, the problem continues to grow, and more teams will try to continue to tank for better players. So what are my recommendations? Sports leagues should do something along the lines of one of these three, either all three or a combination of each. They should increase the punishment for fines and for trying to make intentionally bad roster decisions, like putting young players out there that aren't as experienced as players on the other teams. They should penalize obvious tanking with fines or making them lose their draft position for that year, and redesign the draft system to reward competitiveness, not losses. Overall, tanking raises an important question. What kind of competition do we want? While rebuilding is part of the game, losing on purpose hurts the trust and the integrity of the game at its core. As fans, athletes, and professionals, where should we draw the ethical line? With the big question being, should we win by losing? In my opinion, leagues should consider putting in firmer and stricter policies around unethical conduct like tanking. If tanking is viewed as ethically unacceptable, then the leagues must go beyond basic reforms and create actual standards that will hold teams accountable for purposely putting out intentionally bad lineups to help maintain the integrity of the sport and to prevent tanking from becoming even more common in today's sports world.